Hey guys, Gerald Leonard here, Director of Client Strategy at Hawke Media. Today I'm talking with Tyler Prone. He's the former Vice President of Paid Media at Hawke. Tyler worked on the Barstool Sports account for the better part of 3 years. And today we're going to kind of dive into the nitty gritty of what we accomplished for them. Thanks for joining me today, Tyler.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I'm sure as many of the people hearing or reading this know, Barstool Sports has been around for quite some time, but has certainly entered the ethos and the zeitgeist of culture, especially so over the last 3 to 4 years. So talk to me a little bit about when you started working on the account and what we did for them and or what they were doing prior to working with Hawke.
Yeah, they approached us. Was it back in 2016 with a need for paid search. Um, Previously, they had done a little bit of paid search, and the whole goal is revenue from their store. So they sell merchandise, um, and obviously they have a huge following, a huge community. They have a blog with a lot of traffic. They had not really monetized or taken advantage of that community to that point with paid search. They were a little bit they were over indexing a bit on paid social at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with the merchandise store, especially more recently. Sure, it's grown over the years. What were some of like those first, account moves that you guys made early on, as you guys attempted to scale the account from, those early days of not really doing much to taking their first foray into paid search overall?
Yeah, it's like, how do you take advantage of a big community
Mhm.
and sell the products for that community? Um, one of the things that we discovered is in the numbers is that the percentage of people that have been to their blog, um, there's a large percentage that had not been to the store. So obviously that's a low hanging fruit opportunity. And we leveraged the entire suite of Google products. That's YouTube advertising for remarketing. That's display remarketing, discovery ads as well. That's running ads on the Google Discovery app, and search ads as well. So I created a funnel, essentially, directing users that are looking for their content. If you look at the volume of users looking for their content, it's big. The number of users in the market for their apparel and gear, obviously much smaller. So whenever someone's looking for content, we're serving an ad saying, hey, come check out this store. And as an advertiser, we would only pay if the user elected to click and said, oh, you know what? I'm in the market for, an agnostic barstool search, typically looking for their website or their blog. Yeah,
Mhm.
why don't we? I'll go check out the store. So we drove a lot of revenue from just directing the users to their store, and then they had a huge, they have a huge following on YouTube. They have all these content channels that are all very unique. So there's podcasts for different sports, whether it's Pardon My Take or Call Her Daddy. I mean, the list goes on, and then they sell merch for each of those.
Talk to me
So
about like you just mentioned, they have a diverse portfolio of content of the types of things they put out, whether it's podcasts, YouTube shows, personalities, etc. Um, were you building out? I know it typically marketers think of different people they're marketing to as different personas, and I'm sure that most people quickly kind of lop Barstool into one big bucket of like a certain type of individual that I can kind of picture. As you kind of dove into the data, were there actually individual different personas, not just on the types of people who are consuming their content, but taking it a step further between the person that would consume their content compared to the person that actually wanted to purchase some of their merch?
yeah. So Eric Huberman will always talk about on Facebook ads. You're bidding against demographics. You're saying, okay, I'm willing to bid this much for a CPM if someone is aged 18 to 24 and interested in XYZ. And then you let Facebook's algorithm optimized for intent. Okay, over time, what are the other signals and inputs that will produce sales? It's a bit different from Google. Google, you have this overriding big, indicator, and that's the intent of the search. And then on top of that, you have all the other, influences on that, whether they're aged a certain way or interested in a certain thing. But on Google, it's like the search itself, that's the intent. That can override anything. You could be a 75-year-old grandpa and you're searching for the right thing. You still have a high likelihood of converting. If we target a 75-year-old grandpa on Facebook ads out of the gates, it's probably not going to work. So that's, the intent itself. So not just the keyword. The keyword's just the input. That's just what you set up. The actual output, the actual granular piece of data that you really want to leverage is the search term, what the user is actually searching. You take that and you leverage it and you say, I'm going to isolate spend on what we know works while continuing to test with, say, 20% of our budget. So we had the alpha beta campaign structure, which we started at Hawke a couple of years ago, with that method of a systematic approach to focus spend only where the ROI is.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very insightful. And even from a high level outside of the Barstool account, would you say that for some of the more novice marketers that when it comes to winning early, like you said, Facebook takes a little bit more nuance in terms of figuring out what works. Would you say just like overall that you would find that Google is a little bit easier to win early on as you're testing your spend due to some of those like nuances that you just listed?
I mean, my original background's in Google Ads. So if I were to give an opinion there, it would probably be biased.
Of course.
And then I ended up, exploring other channels. So, I'm going to hold my tongue on that
Sure.
front and say, the boring answer, it depends. What really matters is trying it. Okay, you get a marketer at Hawke and you get someone that knows what they're doing on Google or Facebook. They set it up logically. They understand who the customer is because they've asked the brand, they've dove into the materials, and you set up a logical campaign and you measure it. And who knows? It might be Facebook, it might be Instagram, it might be Google, it might be YouTube. You're going to find something that works, and then you're gonna dump spend into it early on, and you're gonna you have the testing methodology, and you cut spend and you pivot, and you're measuring everything. Barstool is a company that has no tolerance for coming up short. They're a company that almost always wins. They have a very powerful community, so they're not going to just work with anybody. So when we started working on the Barstool account, we knew that, and we won. We did we did the right things and we made the right moves, and we continued to scale the account every single month for 3 years. It was a fun ride.
Absolutely. When it comes to, obviously, like you mentioned, there's multiple different avenues that you can leverage on the Google advertising suite. Were there areas like, i.e. the YouTube or the dynamic retargeting or the search ads that kind of like drove the majority of the program? Or was it pretty agnostic when it came to how you were kind of putting that funnel together?
Yeah. I'd say there's 3 key things to success in this case study. Number 1 is list sharing. So we had multiple accounts for Barstool. So we had a couple of their other brands, subsidiaries, et cetera, all part of the Barstool brand. And we were able to list share. So the blog traffic, we were able to take those lists and utilize them for other things. So we're able to essentially just leverage data across the accounts and share it. Only obviously within the same brand.
Sure.
And that was a huge up. Number 2 was search ads, that big bulk of redirecting traffic to their store. The volume and the intent is there. And then I would say the third item for success was really shopping, because they're a brand that when they go viral, you might have one product that just flies off the shelves, in a week, and you have to take advantage of that. So, in normal situations where you'd have to write the copy and build the ads and let it optimize, shopping is very automated. Where at Hawke, Hawke partners with, let's see, so Hawke partners with some feed providers that manage your shopping feed, which is the input and what powers shopping campaigns. So making sure we had a good feed set up, and we could take advantage of all the SKUs out there that Barstool has. A lot of inventory comes and goes because it's kind of it's of the times. It's soundbite in a way. This is a short-lived 1 week fad, and some things are much more evergreen. So shopping could get great reach across the board on all the products.
Yeah, that's super insightful. Yeah, I can imagine just being familiar with how quickly they can kind of turn out a culturally relevant T-shirt for that matter. How quickly someone like yourself had to respond on that account to make sure that once they had kind of put the money into developing the product, albeit typically probably a screen print, what that looked like afterwards in terms of giving those campaigns legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to cover all this, Tyler. I think that does it for me. If you have any other takeaways that you wanted to add, I'll leave the floor to you now. But otherwise, appreciate you taking the time and talking about the account with us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last item is there's a lot of agencies out there, and there's a lot of marketers out there. And my 3 years at Hawke, I now ascertain, the culture at Hawke is a passionate one, where you get someone that gets really excited. I was very excited when I got the Barstool account, just because it was, at the time it was a big deal. It's a brand that had a lot of headway, and it was a fun challenge, and that's a culture at the company that creates that relationship with the client where there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of care, and so those are my final words.
Killer. Well, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.